When I woke up this morning, I found the house to be empty. It was strange, but I seriously doubt that my family would ever leave for my aunt's house without me on Christmas morning. Something wasn't right. All the miscellaneously placed pictures of mine that were on the walls and hearth were all gone. All the other photos were still in place. Another thing that struck me as odd was the fact that there were no gifts. That just that last night, they were miscellaneously put under the tree this morning. What the hell? I thought to myself. Everything is gone, even the shit I left for my parents. Just then I heard a low guttural growl that made me practically jump out of my skin. I quickly turned my head to see my dog baring her teeth in a semi-defensive position. She stared at me with a terrified look in her eyes as she growled. I took a step towards her and she ran into another room as fast as she could. She did leave a nice piss stain on the carpet though. Shit, I muttered under my breath. Something definitely isn't right. I walked through my house and everything was a mess. Tables and chairs were turned over and lamps were smashed. It looked as if a tornado had went through the place. I felt like shit. I guess a good analogy would be left as I looked around the house. I felt as even cement truck had punched me right in the gut. I went to upstairs to go to the bathroom to wash myself. The smell of cigarette smoke and cheap booze filled the air, and I wondered what was going on. In the bathroom mirror, I looked in the mirror, and I must say, I looked like a picture of the living dead. I was white as a frickin' sour cream. My pupils were dilated to a size I never fought the house at a slow pace, taking my time. I noticed that my father's black suit and tie were missing, so that shouldn't be anything disturbing to me. But for some reason, I couldn't shake the bad feeling that was coming from deep within my gut. As I walked down the stairs, I looked out the window and noticed that my dad's black Cadillac Convert was just missing from the driveway. So was my mom's Chrysler, her 300. I was pissed that they just left me home alone like this. Whatever. It was only 3 miles to my aunt's house. I put on my jacket and walked out the door quietly, being careful for not to scare my dog more than she already was. It was a cold day, so I was expected to be on a late December day in Capitol Hill, Boston, Massachusetts. There was a mass of people congregated around the junction, about 3 blocks away from my house. There was a mass of people congregated around it, but I couldn't make up any details, but all I could see was the outline of a black car. It had hit the side of the two-family house. The front half of the car was inside the damn living room. I was natural aversion to something like that, so despite it being worried about the driver and potential passengers, I kept moving. Nothing else seemed to be out of the ordinary on my walk. Just your typical Bostonian good morning, to which I bumped into the shoulder and had several of the established cusses. I arrived at my aunt's house about 2 hours after setting off, and yes, I did take my sweet time. Looking at the window, I could see several family members, nuclear family included, huddled together around the table. I was mad as hell, but then I took a good hard look at everyone inside. All of them had a somber look on their faces for such a joyous holiday. Each person had a black suit or dress on. By then, my anger had faded, and I quietly walked through the opposed to a bursting it, though what at first I wanted to do at first. As soon as my foot crossed the threshold, a bright light enveloped around me. I felt as if I was drowning in light, and then everything went dark. Then I came to, when I walked out of my room, there was still nothing under the tree. Both cars were still gone, and I was more confused than ever when I woke up this morning. There was no way my parents could have brought me home and left me there to go back to my aunt's house. I decided to go back. Once again, I put on my jacket and left the house. I remember just about 3 blocks away, there was an accident, and I figured that I wouldn't be a chicken this time and go and check it out. The crowd was gone, and there were only 2 squad cars. One was on the corner, and the other was on the right, next to the crashed car. I walked straight up to the car and was disturbed by the fact that the cop, eating a donut and reading out of the Boston Globe, did not take any presents of me, despite the fact that I walked right by them. I dreaded looking inside the car, but I hesitated for a few minutes. I wasn't going to let myself just walk away, even though I felt like I was going to throw up. I bent down, and it was horrified to see a bloody pulp of a man that looked just like me pinned to the seat by the dashboard. Blood continued to roll down his forehead. His hands were still clutched onto the steering wheel, white-knuckled, and a look of horror was still spread across his face. Rigor mortis is a beautiful thing. In the distance, I saw an ambulance cruising down the car with its lights flashing, with the speakers occasionally letting out a beep or two. In a state of disbelief, I rushed around to check the back of the car, only to be greeted by the Cadillac's Lesna. I rushed to the squad car and started yelling at the cop, hoping to get a response. None came, and I ran to a nearby driveway. I picked up the pebbles and started throwing them at the cop's window. He suddenly sat up alert and turned his head in my direction. With a quizzical look on his face, he turned his head to me as if he didn't see me, went back to his doubts in the morning paper. I ran as fast as I could, but only got a few feet away when I tripped on something. As I hit the ground, I lay there as a bright white light, exactly like one from before, came over me again. It all came back to me in a flash. Pulling out of the driveway, running towards the red light, worried that I would be late. Getting T-boned by the damn guy, shielding my face with my hands from the shattered glass, trying desperately to gain control of my car again. Going through the wall and to a family of two, being pinned to my seat on the dashboard, and finally choking on my own blood as it welled up in my lungs. When I woke up this afternoon, I found the house to be emptied. It was strange. I seriously doubt my family would let me sleep when they went to my aunt's house on Christmas Day. Something wasn't right. All the miscellaneous placed pictures of mine were off the walls and hers were gone. Even all the photos were still in place. Another thing that struck me as odd was the fact that there were no gifts. That was just last night. They were maliciously put under the tree this morning.